our next speaker, our next guest tonight is Bobby Reset. Bobby's the founder and CEO of Virtual Gurus, a talent as a service platform that matches its users with Canadian, US-based virtual assistants. Um, the best thing is I've heard a lot about Bobby. I've actually heard on a few podcasts. She's a force of nature. She's built a business despite some of the obstacles that she may have had in life. She's a Cree Metis woman who prides herself on building an inclusively first company, championing indigenous people and the LGBTQ community. So, Bobby, thanks for joining me. I got to ask one thing. Actually, we heard a couple of other speakers talk about is how some marketplaces drive down the cost of actually employing people. So, how do you avoid this, and how do you
How
build
they drive down the cost story of what?
like Upwork, where you get people abroad? You've built, I think, all your assistants are North American onshore. So why do you do that, and how do you build up a company around that idea?
Well, thank you, by the way, for the introduction. And I do want to thank Madison and Connell for starting out off because as a person of color myself, it's been a big struggle. And I think the BLM movement, as well as the androgynous and indigenous movement, is important. So for me, the reason that I hire onshore, or that I've worked on onshore and made sure that I only hired onshore people, is because I struggled finding work myself in the past. So it's been such a struggle as far as like for me finding work in the past, and it was because people didn't think that I was able to do that work, or they didn't think that there's just so much more to it that anytime I went to look for work, I couldn't find work. And so when I started this, my main promise to myself was I'm going to make sure that I only hire onshore people. Uh, so yeah, yeah.
And doing this, can
Can you
you
hear me?
you built a marketplace. So did you tackle supply first? Did you get the onshore workers, or did you get the demand first?
But a few things, yes, it's indigenous. I'm Métis, and when it came to building the marketplace, it was really tough as far as building the marketplace, because what we do is we only focus on hiring people in Canada, within Canada, but we service all of US, UK, and Canada right now. We're launching in Australia right away, and so we're all over the map. But I had to try to bringing in the work of people just here, and
Yeah.
it's one of the hardest things was making sure that people understood why we were doing that. And when virtual assistants came in, the thing was is people were offshoring that mainly. Freelancers were mainly offshore, and no onshore virtual assistant companies were happening. So that's why we focused on it.
And was there a deeper personal reason to focus on onshoring versus offshoring?
Yeah. So when I first started Virtual Gurus 4 years ago, I started basically outsourcing myself, and every company that I talked to has said that their main issues was the language barrier in certain areas of that, not saying that they're bad people or anything, but they just kind of do the certain onshore work. And so my goal was to come in and kind of change that. And I told people, well, if you're going to go with a Canadian company or a North American company, you're not going to get $2 an hour. You're going to get 30, 40 an hour, because agency fees, overhead, this and that, and paying a fair wage. And so at first I started charging very low, but now the main plan is that we want to pay that fair wage, because everybody that works for us are people with disabilities, people that are marginalized folks, people that are indigenous folks in reserves. We pay single stay-at-home moms who have no benefits, like they can't. So there's all these different areas that we want to make sure that we focus on, but we have to be able to make it a sufficient amount for the user to pay a good amount where they can still pay, the wage of that person.
And then, so you got the demand, so you got supply. How'd you go about getting demand? I think in my notes it says you cold called your first 100 customers.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell me, this is tenacity. To explain to me what you did.
So I personally called my first 100 customers on my own. So it's like that chicken and egg, right? Because
Yeah.
when you have the supply and demand, you got to focus on, okay, I can hire 10,000 people right now, but do I have the demand to deal with those 10,000 people? No. So what I did was I brought in the clients first, and I ended up being their VA. So I would talk on the phone with them and be like, hey, yeah, so the VA is in Calgary and she's amazing. And I started being the person, but they didn't realize that, they didn't put two and two together, that it was not that at all. And then I started really selling the whole aspect of it and being a little bit more like, okay, so I cold called myself 100 of my first clients and being like, hey. And I brought those clients in, and then I have multiple sales clients now, and we've serviced well over thousands of clients now. But yeah.
And then as you've got more clients, like, what are trends towards basically outsourcing or using virtual assistants right now? Has it sped up with COVID? Is there any, what's changed in the last 4 years?
I'd be surprised because I feel like we're going backwards a bit. The marketplace industry is such a huge industry to hit, but it's a hard sell. And for us, we went from just general assistants, and we're now going all the way up to executive assistants, and we're doing a lot more than that. So we're building the full remote teams in the back end office support for companies. Hence now that we're selling less. Like we have thousands of clients that use the service and they log in, they use it, they're boom, boom, boom. But it's been taking a long time for us to get to that. But the trend was they started with just general assistants, and now they're way more than executive assistants. So we have social media, marketing, everything from legal assistants, medical, IT, everything through the platform.
Wow. So I guess your demands requiring more and more specific supply.
It is now. Now it's good because we're actually launching the app Ask Betty right away.
Okay.
It's ventured by Slack, and so that is going to all the Slack users right away next week, actually. And those are the type of tasks that will take off the small little menial tasks from us, so we can focus on the bigger tasks. And that I think will help us differentiate the trend a little bit more. So.
Cool. I'm going to switch questions a bit. As as a female leader, as a leader for many communities, how do you empower more people to enter the Canadian tech ecosystem?
This is something that plays on me big time because as a female LGBT Indigenous founder, I've had major struggles, and I'm here in Alberta. I'm here in Calgary, so this is a big one. It's hard for me because I really struggle with it. Like everything that I go down with out here. If I was in Toronto as an LGBT Indigenous person, I'd be accepted a lot more out there. But out here, I've really struggled. So for me, it's not only being there for support and hope and showing these people that you're there for them. Is don't forget about the little guys, all the investors, all of the accelerators, all of everybody. They go after all of the people that have this big idea that it's going to take them somewhere. What about the little people that have those ideas? And we need to be there more to support those people. We need to support them through the process, because if I had that support, I know I'd be a lot further along than I am now. But
So what I'm hearing is more ways to support more entrepreneurs, no matter where they come from and how big their ideas are. But let's get them started.
Let's get them started. And when the little people, like for me, I was a little person, and I'm saying that in the nicest way because people didn't look at me serious. And now, you know what? They look at me serious because now I'm more than 3, 4, 5 million annual recurring revenue. So now I'm serious.
Yeah.
But why didn't they look at me like that from the beginning?
Okay, so the last words I have then is, I guess what I hear takeaways, we have to look at everyone and just help them build their businesses.
Yeah.
And no matter what their backgrounds are.
Yeah, like we have to be there to support them and understand we're there. Like, as me as a founder, I'd rather you say to me, your idea might not get us here, but we want to support you through this process of this, and I think that we need to be able to do that more.
Great. On those great words, I'm going to thank you for coming. and I hope you're going to be around to participate in the sessions.
I will be. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.